Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We are here to talk a little bit about technology year in review and what's been going on over the past year with working remotely, working during a pandemic, and kind of just what we've been seeing, and talk a little bit about with one of our team members about what he's been seeing, and just give you guys a little bit of a sense of how we've been working behind the scenes on your behalf over the past year. So I'm Scott Spatz. I'm the president of Cooperative Systems, and I'm joined today by Dan Roberts from our service desk. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Cooperative Systems.
Yeah, so I'm a help desk technician specializing in security tickets. Been with the company for about just over 3 years now, or almost 3 years. I'm sorry. It's going to be 3 years in July.
Excellent. Yeah. And a great 3 years it's been, right?
Absolutely. Love it.
So your role in the company, as you said, on the service desk, tell us a little bit about what that means to our clients.
Yeah. So whenever you send in a ticket, it's going to go through our service desk. We're the technicians that help you out, get your computer back up and running, get you reconnected to those pesky drives that just seem to disconnect for no reason, those sorts of things. So we're the ones that are helping you out directly on the help desk side.
Right. And you've been in a couple different roles in the service desk, correct?
Yeah. So started off as a tier 1. So that was primarily just answering the phones, doing those initial tickets, and now I've moved up to a tier 2, and also with that specialization in security, doing a lot more of those tickets and just making sure that we have what's called hardening of endpoints and making sure that things are set up correctly so that you're as secure as possible as you work.
Right. And a lot of the glad you mentioned the security specialization. So that is kind of a behind the scenes role a little bit, right?
Yeah, right. Yep. Well, until you get that pop up.
More, yeah. Talks a lot to the proactive nature of what we do behind the scenes and making sure our clients are well protected and following up and acting on alerts as necessary and making sure their environments are secure, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely do take security very seriously and want to make sure that we're taking care of everything that we can as early as we can before anything even happens, if possible, and making sure that everyone is safe, secure, and able to get done what they need to get done. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for telling us a little bit about yourself. We'll kind of get into the topics here and go through some of the questions that we had prepared for today. So you said you've been with the company for about 3 years, correct?
That's correct.
And out of those 3 years, have you seen any kind of just trends of even outside of just the past year and the pandemic? We talked a little bit about security and the role of that plays. Are you seeing more on the security side that you're dealing with and that people on our team are dealing with that is relevant in nature to our clients?
Yeah, definitely. So with the pandemic, but even before that, we were seeing a little bit of a spike in the phishing attempts. So people sending in an email saying that they're like the CEO of your company, but it's coming from a Gmail address or something like that, or spoofing an email, which is making it look like you're reaching out from a legitimate address. And we've seen a lot of that start to pick up, but also things like what's called a browser hijacker, where it pops up and it tells you there's a virus on your computer, call this number. A lot of those things, we're seeing a lot more of those coming up. And I'd have to say, I believe it's most likely tied to with everyone under quarantine, working from home, working remotely. You're on a less secure network. There's less chances of those sorts of things getting caught. So that could also be contributing to it. But it does also seem like there is legitimately more of those incidents going on.
Right. And that was a trend we were seeing prior to COVID, as you mentioned, and it's gotten just even more prevalent and more serious of a nature in the past year, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other, what other sort of technology issues, maybe security, maybe not, but what sort of things have you guys been dealing with on the service desk over the past year?
So one of the big ones as far as security is multi-factor authentication, what's called MFA. That's one thing that is just, it's incredibly useful when you're talking about securing your like email or other different applications that you might be able to use it for. So essentially what that does is the multi-factor authentication token that you use, whatever it is, you would be able to have that as an intermediary between you logging in. So if you think about it, your single factor authentication is like your Facebook account. You enter your username, password, you get in. Multi-factor would add a third step to that where you get like a push notification sent to your phone. So you have to acknowledge that it's you logging in. And that's really helpful for two reasons. For one, you're going to get that notification. And if somebody's trying to get into your account, then you'll get that pop-up and you'll know that you need to change your password because someone was able to get past that first layer. But then if you get that notification, then they aren't able to get into your account because they don't have that secondary step where they can authenticate there. So
Right.
that's one trend that we're seeing, a lot more people getting involved within their infrastructure because it saves a lot of headache when it comes to like people getting into email or getting into other accounts.
Right. And is that caused by way of us promoting and having multi-factor authentication installed in most of our clients' environments? Has that caused an uptick in terms of just maybe issues that people are seeing or are experiencing getting into their technology systems? Does it cause any issues, or is it pretty straightforward?
It's actually relatively straightforward. It's a pretty easy process, both on the help desk side as well as the end user side. Get the person set up. Once they have their account set up, it's a really quick text message that you get. You hit a couple buttons, and before you know it, you're able to just click a button anytime you try to log in. It adds maybe a second or two onto your process of logging in, but it saves you months of recovery from your email getting breached or something on your network getting exposed to the outer gross web.
Right. So the effort put forth to have a system like that put in, it pays off significantly and is worth the investment in doing so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. What other? So we talked about phishing attempts and what we're seeing there, and security threats coming through via email. We talked about the multi-factor authentication. What's maybe one other thing that you've seen people dealing with or having issues with over the past year?
So one that we've definitely seen a lot of, especially with remote work, is with getting your home network set up properly so that it'll work with the remote access that you're trying to get. So a lot of times you run into an issue if somebody has a VPN, so that's a virtual private network. That's what allows you to essentially create an encrypted tunnel between your network at home, or specifically your device, and then the network at work where you're trying to get connected up. And with people using that, there's a lot of times issues getting connected to devices within that network, or there may be an issue on that home network where it doesn't allow certain things, or there's certain features that you're not able to get access to. And that's kind of the nature of the beast when you're trying to essentially connect to otherwise unrelated networks together. There's going to be a little bit of a give and take there, but we've definitely been able to mitigate a lot of issues with that and get customers back up and running relatively quickly.
That's great. And is that something you see? That'll be something that we see remaining, correct? Within people's technology environments is remote VPN connectivity. The big kind of initiative or issue that we dealt with back about a year ago was just getting everyone set up to work that way. And now that people are continue to remote, and probably will have a continued level of remote workforce within their businesses, that those types of technologies used to connect people remotely from their remote locations will remain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. We kind of got tossed around just trying to get everyone set up, get their network set up, get everyone set up for these remote access, trying to make sure that people have the right utilities, whether it's a PC, peripherals, whatever it might be that they need in order to be able to work from home. And we've had plenty of time now to be able to kind of polish those systems. And I think a lot of people are seeing just how successful it can be by working remote. We've definitely seen some companies going more towards that direction, where it's either working completely remote and specifically working off like the cloud or some other infrastructure like that, or going towards like a partial work from home on some days and then work from the office on others. So we've definitely seen that pattern. Yeah.
Right. And I got this image that I wanted to share with everyone on the screen here just for a second. It's a good segue into that of this funny image that we found of a typical type of maybe management team meeting prior to COVID saying, digital transformation is years away. I don't see our company having to change anytime soon. And then we have the big COVID-19 wrecking ball coming in. So that's kind of talks to what you were just talking about a little bit there.
Yeah, it totally came out of left field, but we made it.
Yeah. All right, great. So in terms of just kind of trends that we're seeing now a year later, and certainly going through the rest of the year and in the next couple of years here, any tech trends you're seeing that you feel have either come about or are coming about and that will be part of our worlds?
Yeah, so a couple of them that we've already listed. So multi-factor authentication is definitely going to be a big one. Making sure that you're a little bit more secure, making sure that you're able to protect your environment with that extra level. Definitely seeing a lot of that increase, and I expect to see it grow in popularity as more and more people see that it's not this like beast of a terrible thing to implement. It's very, very easy to get set up, and once you have it set up, it's a pretty decent sense of ease of mind knowing you have that extra layer.
Right.
Then also the working from home. That's one thing that we're seeing people moving towards that direction, but it's something that we've had a little bit of time to kind of perfect. And then also I'm noticing a lot more of the with this increase with the security tickets that we're getting, or with like alerts that we get for things that we've successfully blocked and things like that. I'm definitely seeing that there's a little bit more of a focus on the security, because it's becoming more and more apparent that that's not necessarily a deficit to your company to focus on making sure that you have that security. It's seen as essential now, which is really good to see, because a lot of times you kind of get the security pushed to the back burner and kind of pushed out of your mind. But we live in a world now where that's got to be at the forefront of your mind, because that is what's going to completely control whether your company is successful or not, because all it takes is one mistake and it could be deadly to a company.
Right. Absolutely. And we put a lot of emphasis on making sure when we're talking with prospective clients that security is number one focus, and for our existing clients that we're continually doing whatever we need to do to make sure their environments are running as securely and as optimally as possible, and that there's as little possibility as possible for any of their users to introduce risk into the environment. How about just video conferencing and Zoom, GoToMeeting, Teams, all the different tools that people have been using over the past year? How have you guys been seeing support around those platforms come into your day-to-day?
So they're because of how user-friendly they are, there aren't too many tickets that we get for them, but I'm definitely finding out about all sorts of different video software that I didn't even know existed. In fact, just today I had a ticket for a new software that I never even heard of, and it turns out it's legitimate, no security issues or anything like that. But just looking at it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know what that is. But with that, it's been relatively easy, that transition. Coming from personal experience, I've had a lot of experience with Teams and I love it. It works very well. I've had a lot of experience with Zoom. Obviously, we're on call now. That works very well. And as far as any issues that users have, it's usually just a quick click of a setting or something like that on their computer, or just getting them back up and running through some setting on the computer side. I haven't really had too many issues with the apps. Yeah,
well, that's good to hear. And thank God that all those tools existed a year ago.
Yeah.
And that, most people's home networks and Wi-Fi connections were as good as they were, and were allowed the business community to be able to operate in a remote fashion, like we've done all of us for all the past year or so. Because I can't imagine what we would have done if we didn't have those tools and what the business world would have been like over the past year.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings up a really good point you were mentioning about the work from home issues that we might see with that. That's another one. If your network can't handle it, like if you have a DSL connection that's on a very low level, you're not going to be able to do the video calls and things like that. So that's something else that we had to take into consideration. So yeah, definitely a good point there with that too.
Right. So if there were maybe just one or two things that a business must absolutely be prepared for going forward, whether they're whether they're still fully remote, whether they're in the office, maybe they're doing a little bit of both. A couple things maybe that you're seeing that maybe we haven't talked about, or maybe just to reiterate what we did talk about that a business must be absolutely prepared for.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of different software, different companies moving towards more cloud infrastructure as opposed to local licenses, local apps, that sort of thing. So that's something that people will definitely want to get familiar with, working within getting licensing through some sort of subscription service or cloud or something of that sort. With that, you always want to make sure that you're staying up to date on your software. Things of that sort can be, again, kind of pushed to the side, but it's something that is very important to make sure that you have all your applications up to date. Even something so simple as Google Chrome or Firefox or a browser like that, making sure that's up to date. Seeing a lot of stuff in relation, or a lot of items in relation to that I'm seeing security tickets for, where it's something so simple as running a quick update just to make sure everything's up and running. And just, I'd say, to summarize that entire rant that I just did there, migration to cloud services is going to be a really big thing to keep an eye on. Make sure that if you do have that coming up or coming down the pipe for one of your vendors or something, make sure that you have an understanding of how that process will work. And then also security upkeep, whether it's endpoint hardening, which is making sure you have like your whatever antivirus or anti-malware software that you need installed is installed and running, making sure that all these items are updated, like your software is updated, your computer itself is updated with your Windows update or Mac OS update or whatever the device might be. Make sure that your operating system is up to date, and just staying ahead of the game, because that's the best thing that you could do to be prepared from a security standpoint, but also a functionality standpoint, is stay ahead of the game and make sure you know what's coming.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned the cloud too. Just in terms of what we've been seeing when we're talking with clients, and either new clients or existing clients, about cloud, and what that may mean for their business, how that may fit in well or maybe not fit in well with their business and how they operate. But tying the security piece into cloud and making sure that whatever combination of premise-based computing or cloud-based computing that they're doing, that security is top of mind, and that we're making sure that any of the cloud providers that are involved in their overall infrastructure meet those security protocols that we want to make sure are in place for every one of our clients. So glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap, Dan, unless there's anything else that you feel the audience should know or to reiterate of what you talked about.
No, I think I covered just about everything I got.
All right, great. Well, Dan, thank you very much for joining me on today's webinar, and thank you everybody for watching. And we'll look forward to having you join us on our next webinar. Take care, everyone.